these changes. So, this is the mid-season patch notes show. So, usually in Smite and a lot of games, when it comes to the middle of the season, they'll make a pretty big patch to kind of change up the meta, add a bunch of new things, fix things that were causing them problems throughout the beginning of the season. And that's what's happening right now. So it's going to be the 5.13 mid-season patch notes show, like I said. So a lot of things should be getting changed. A lot of things should be getting added. I have skimmed over this already because when I woke up this morning, well, not really this morning, this afternoon, my sleep schedule is still kind of messed up. I saw on Twitter that everybody was freaking out and saying there were awesome changes, so I was like super excited. I just wanted to read it right away. So this isn't my first impression on everything, so I've thought about each of these things a little bit. However, I only read them right here, so it's really hard to get a full understanding of the changes and everything like that with these just like sentences, like bullet pointed sentences. So if I'm missing something or I don't really know too much about one thing, then that's the main reason why. For example, like this Freya rework, like I'm seeing what is being said about them. Like her passive now restores 6% of her missing mana per successful hit on a melee, and then when you're ranged, you restore 2% of your health, your missing health, per successful hit up to once per shot. So that mana, that you're getting a lot of mana back for that. So I'm not too sure how her abilities and stuff work right now, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over this. If you're interested in reading the Freya rework, and by the time this video is probably posted on my YouTube, you could probably just go either watch it or go read it on the actual patch notes. But I'm going to get down to like the stuff that we can kind of read about immediately. So this part right here is about the player commendation system. They're going to be adding things so you can commend your teammates if they're acting good. So instead of being only reporting people and punishing bad behavior, they're going to be reinforcing good behavior. So there's going to be an entire system so that you can reward the people that are being good people. So that should help out with the toxicity problem in Smite. There's a goodwill system revamp. Don't really care about that. Basically, the reason you're probably watching me is because you want to see my opinion on balance changes. So that's kind of what I'm getting to. They did change that these things could have some balance impact. The fountains are going to be ticking more frequently for one, and they're going to be ticking for a little bit less. But they're just going to be more consistent, apparently. You're still going to get the heal for a second after you walk out of fountain. That way you can start walking towards the lane like we always love to. And they also are no longer affected by anti-heal, so if you're getting camped and they cursed onk you in your fountain and they're just trying to kill you, that will no longer happen. So that's cool because that's been a thing for a long time that like I didn't really care too much about, but it always seemed weird. Like, why can you get anti-healed in your fountain? Like, the only time where that's going to be useful is when you're getting fountain camped and they just want to kill you there, so it's kind of silly. So some changes to duel and joust I don't really care about. Arena I do care about a little bit because I do like playing arena, but whatever. Who cares really at the end of the day? So now down to conquest, the important stuff. So support bonus XP. This is something that they tweeted about a couple days ago, and apparently the lowest level player on each team will get a 25% shared experience. So if they're sharing waves or sharing jungle camps, they're going to be getting a little bit extra XP for that. And apparently it can only work for the support, is what they're saying, even if somebody else is sharing somehow. But usually the only person sharing on the team is going to be a support and whoever they're sharing with. So this is good. The only problem I see with this is they're buffing tank items, they're buffing support items for one, and they're adding in something like this. So I don't want to. It shouldn't get to the point where, because right now it feels like supports are supporting their team. They're not, just another frontliner that can do whatever they want. It does feel like they're supporting right now. So if it gets to the point where they're able to just do whatever they want and solo people, and it gets back to that meta where the support basically just runs at the mage, I'm going to be kind of disappointed. So they should keep their eye on that and make sure that supports still are the support of the team. Kind of like the backbone and keeping people alive and peeling and still, being a target. Anyway, some changes in minion AI. So minions that have already chosen a target will not change targets unless their current target dies, leaves radius, or an enemy god draws their aggro. So this is interesting. I'm not too sure how it works with when it's attacking god. So if a minion, like say a minion wave is aggro to you, does that mean that they... So, okay, never mind. That makes sense. It makes sense. So if the minions are attacking your minions and then you aggro the wave, they should hit you until you clear the wave. if that's what I'm getting at, which is kind of a big deal. I'm not too sure if that's true. We'll have to see. This is one of those things I can't really tell too much just from reading the sentence. So whatever. So Elder Harpy is going to be 24 base XP now, so that's good. You're going to be clearing camps a little bit quicker in that regard. And then the Oracle Furies, they do seem pretty tanky early game, so reducing their base HP is pretty nice. It's pretty hard to kill without your jungler being there, like especially if you're a dual laner, mid laner. It takes a little bit for you to actually be done with that. So some important changes to all the buffs. So speed buff, all of these buffs are getting, like, I guess, base nerfs. However, you're going to be rewarded for being aggressive and for hitting enemy gods and actually playing the game, which I like. I like a whole lot. Similar to like blessings, like you get rewarded for playing the game, and you get to a certain goal, and then you achieve that goal, and then you get something else for achieving it. So that's basically what is happening here. So speed buff is getting a 5% reduction in movement speed. But now it applies additional stacks of 2% speed on each jungle camp kill/assist. Stacks up to 3 times, and stack lasts 15 seconds. So it can get up to 16% movement speed and last for 15 seconds if you're consistently clearing jungle camps. If you're staying consistent with that, like kind of like a Bakasura passive. If you're making good use of it, you can keep that up the entire time. So good junglers will be rewarded for this. For good timing on their jungle path and everything like that. Same thing goes for all these other buffs. So red buff is now going to only be a 10% power bonus. However, it goes up to 15 when hitting enemy gods. So this is just a outright nerf no matter what. However, red buff did dictate a lot of the early game, a lot of the fighting in the mid game and everything like that. If you had a red buff and the enemy team didn't, or you're consistently taking their red buff, you're going to be winning most of the fights just because you have so much extra damage. So a nerf to that I do like. And also, it's just having that in between where 15% when you're hitting the enemy gods and you're getting rewarded for that is real nice. I like that. Purple buff, however, I think is just not even getting nerfed at all. It's just seeing buffs. So if there's only one enemy near you, you're getting a 10 prot debuff on enemies, which is what it is now. But it goes up for each enemy. So 2 enemies 12, 3 enemies 14, 4 enemies 16, and 5 enemies 18 prot debuff. So that's kind of cool. Once again, the support is usually the one who has the purple buff, and maybe late game like Soul Lane or Tinker or somebody random. So basically, you're just getting rewarded for being in the middle of everybody, which is really nice, because that's where you want to be most of the time if you're a frontliner. So that's really nice. I like that. And then blue buff is getting a nerf, and then seeing a different kind of change to its passive. So it's going down to 15 MP5 instead of 25, so losing a lot of mana regen. However, if you hit your enemy god with an ability, and it only triggers once per ability, you get 2% of your missing mana back. So that's nice. Once again, being rewarded for actually, hitting each other and kind of playing the game. I think overall this will probably be a lot less mana getting back from blue buff just over time. This 25 will add up a lot more. So yeah, purple also stacks if you have 2 on the team. That's true. So if 2 people have a purple buff on the team, so it can get up to 36 prot debuff. Pretty interesting. So this isn't Conquest, but I still think it's really important, and it's nice. They're adding a bunch of features to jungle practice, things that people have been asking for forever. Stuff like setting your level, getting lots of CDR so you can test things out, instantly stacking your stacking items, having different kind of buffs, having a tower in jungle practice, all this different stuff. You're just going to have to try it out on PTS. It should be really cool, the jungle practice, or when it's on live cloud. I'm not sure if it's going to be on PTS, but they update it with all the Season 5 art and characters, which is nice because it's using old assets right now. So they're having a completely new update to the jungle practice, which is really nice. It's going to allow people to test out things and have fun in that. So on to further balance, we're just going to go down to the god balance. Skips over a couple of things. It's always been that 2 could stack. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's not. I don't know if it was intended initially, but people found out that you could stack them. So Bakasura is going to be the first one up on the list. So Baka's takedown, which is his jump, is one. It no longer decreases physical protection on it, but it now causes enemies to take 10% increased damage from all sources. So this is pretty interesting. It's basically the same thing as a physical protection debuff, in that you're just going to be doing more damage to the character that you hit, or everyone else is as well. It's just going to be a little bit different because it's increased damage, 10% increased damage, which is something that you can't, you can mitigate, but it's not it's not based on what protections the enemy has. So it's just going to be more damage no matter what. Because if you hit a character that doesn't really have any prots, then it's not helping as much when currently. So this post-animation fire time is really nice. They changed it from 7.7 seconds to 0.2 seconds, so that means you can immediately do things. But that's basically just how long it takes you to finish the animation. So if it's only 0.2 seconds, that means you can basically immediately auto-attack, immediately do other things, which is really nice. They're just speeding up everything in general because they also increased the projectile speed on his regurgitate. And also up here with the eat minion, there's a targeter now that shows you instantly when you can devour something. So back to this, they increase the projectile speed on regurgitate, which is basically just the minions flying out and getting towards the landing position. And Baka can also eat the minions, creating its ability. That's really cool because a lot of times in the middle of a fight, say you're in the jungle, not near camp, like you need to instantly heal, and you can't do that. But now that you have your eat minion available for your minions created by regurgitate, that's really nice. So just speeding everything up in general and having more options is really nice. Hey, Bria. Bria, I'm going to be streaming for a while, so I don't know. So Alposh is getting a bunch of buffs. Kind of absurd, if you ask me. But Undead Surge, which is one, now has 2 zombies at all ranks. So currently, you have to put 3 points into your tier 1 as Alposh, so you get the 2 corpses, so that when you do detonate it, it does a lot more damage because you actually have 2 instead of 1. But now you don't even have to level it because you're going to have 2 at all ranks. You're not leveling it for the base damage that it does when it hits somebody. That just doesn't matter that much. So now that you have it at 2 at all ranks, you don't have to worry about putting the 3 points into it, and you're going to be doing a lot more damage early game because you can put points into your explosion, which is your 2. So Empty the Crypts, the ult, now has 20% healing reduction on hit, stacking 3 times, so up to 60%. It lasts 5 seconds. They pass through everything now, all player-made walls, even the environment walls, I'm pretty sure. And it also persists after Alposh dies. So, huge buff to his ult. He was already an anti-heal kind of god, like anti-healer. Now he even has more reason to be picked up against healers, and this buff to his ult is pretty crazy. His ult does a lot of damage if you stay in it, but a lot of times it was being blocked by whatever it was, you know, the walls, or what have you, or even players. So it says spirits now pass through everything, so that I assume that means it'll pass through players and do extra damage, and do more damage per. Because right now you could block it with it, like yourself. So if it can no longer be blocked by like a support, then that's pretty crazy damage. So basically, you know, huge buffs to Alposh, definitely going to make him more viable. So also what they're doing is they're changing all of the passives in the game that require or that have RNG like crit in them. So Artemis, Neja, and Hunbats are all characters that their passive allows them to crit without having any crit items because they get percentage-based crit. So they're changing all of that to remove a lot of the RNG in the game, which is really nice. So Artemis's new passive is her basic attacks deal 30% more damage to enemy minions and 15% to enemy gods if they are affected by crowd control. So basically, if they're in like one of your roots or one of your stuns from your ult, or if your support stuns them or does whatever to them, you're going to be doing more damage to them, which I think is pretty cool because it goes well with her ult and stuff and the way she wants to CC chain people. We'll see how much it affects her and how much damage she's putting out because of it. And that also means since if you buy crit on her, you'll be doing 130% plus 100 or 160% to minions. So basically just more damage in general when they're CC'd. So for Hunbats, instead of getting that 30% crit chance after he uses an ability for that first auto, he now is just going to do 20% bonus damage. So no crit. This doesn't mean it's a crit. It just is a flat 20% bonus damage. But if you buy crit on him and you go like Hydra's Lament, then this crit after using an ability is going to deal a crazy amount of damage. So don't get it mistaken. If you do end up going crit and you get a huge crit on that first auto, it's still going to be really good. It's going to actually be better than what it was before because you're doing 20% bonus damage, so it's going to end up being a lot.
I'm deployed right now, and thank God I have internet because I look forward to your content every day. God bless you, bro. I can't wait to come back home and play Smite LOL.
Yo, Real Wick Kid, thank you so much for the $100 donation. Thank you for serving our country, of course, man. What branch are you in? And yeah, I love making content, man. Thank you for enjoying it. Thank you for supporting me, of course, just by watching it, but also for $100, man. That's a lot of money. It says, God bless you, bro. I can't wait to come back home and play Smite. Dude, I look forward to it. I hope you're doing well over there. And once again, thank you for the $100. And let me get back to continuing this content for you. I'm just making a video. That's why I'm saying that real quick. But thanks again, dude. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, Hunbats, the auto after using an ability is going to do even more damage if you crit when you buy crit. So it's really nice. Overhand smash no longer affected by directional movement penalties while in the air. A little bit confused by this one. I'm not too sure what this even means. I don't really. I guess because you're a little bit slower while you're in the air. When you use overhand smash, I'm not too sure. So fear no evil can now be deployed in walls. So that's really cool because before it was really tough to like. It was really tough like when you're in an area where there's a lot of walls and stuff. Really get the ult down in the perfect spot. So now you can just place it wherever, so you can always have it in a good spot, which is really cool. So Neja, another character that has crit in his passive. His stacks no longer provide critical hit chance. You know, you get 20 stacks, and before it would provide crit for that. Now they provide movement speed and physical power. So 1 physical power per stack and 0.5% movement speed per stack. So 10% movement speed at max stacks, and then 20 power at max stacks. That I would consider a buff. Like I think that's really good on him. 10% movement speed was obviously nice. And then 20 power when you don't even have any power. Like early game when you're going to have 20 powers, like crazy. It's going to help your clear. But not only that, it's going to help you 1v1 pretty much anyone because you're going to have physical power over them. Yeah, so let's go on. So Ravana is being changed to an assassin now. They're reducing all of his stats, or not reducing, but changing all of his stats to better fit assassin role instead of being a warrior. So all of these warrior-based stats are changed to assassin-based stats. So there's nerfs in some places and buffs in other places. Not too big of a deal. But the big deal is the change to his ability. So Chain of Blows, which is his passive, can now stack on damaging structures, and then now gained per target hit. And so that basically means you're just going to get your shields that you get from Ravana passive on structures and a little bit quicker. Also, you get 3% bonus movement speed per stack. So that's I think that's a lot. I'm not too sure how many stacks you get on Ravana. Is it 8? Is it 8 stacks? Something like that. Something like that. So they could be up to 20% movement speed or something. Yeah, it's because of you, Jake. Thanks a lot. Anyway, but their last. Okay. Oh, okay. So did they completely change his passive? I'm a little bit confused by this one. I'm not too sure. Yo, German, thanks for gifting us up to Jigs. I'll have to look at Ravana changes a little bit later down. But yeah, thanks a lot for gifting us up to German, or to Jigs German. So 10-hand Shadow Fist now has 70% physical power scaling, and that's just his 3, the one that heals, right? And then the overhead kick, which is his 2, and immunity gets a cooldown reduction, which is pretty crazy. It doesn't go down to 12 seconds though, but it starts off a little bit better, so it's not as long of a cooldown early game, which is I guess good for him. Ravana passive is 3 stacks. Oh, okay. All right. Now on to Anubis. Anubis is just seeing mana cost reduction, which is nice for him, but he's still going to be, not too great. Just too easy to kill. Baron Somni is seeing nerfs to his scaling, nerf to the missing target's health heal on his 2. Ramp to root. The ramp up to the root is considered a root for all CC minion purposes, and if it is cleansed, it results in a full root not applying. Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's just like it's just like how old Chronos 3 used to be. They're just making it more consistent. And then okay, so yeah, basically just nerfs all around. So Baron Slime is just getting nerfs so that you don't get one shot by his full combo, and then there's more counterplay to him, and the fact that he heals a crazy amount, even though he's not a healer, is being nerfed as well. So all around good nerfs, making sure that character doesn't stay OP forever. So Chang'e is up next. She's seeing nerfs as well. She's been seeing a lot of play lately, and she's kind of ridiculous and definitely not fun to play against, so it's good that she's getting nerfed. She's getting a Crescent Moon Dance is now a 6-second cooldown, which is her 1, and then Waxy Moon is getting a base damage reduction down to 420. Blaze it at max rank. So yeah, good little nerfs. Little things like this, just adjusting to make sure that you don't over nerf characters, because you don't want to over nerf characters that haven't seen play in a very long time, right? Like, Chang'e only recently started seeing play, and she was terrible for a very, very long time. So once she is like viable and stuff, you don't just want to immediately fucking destroy her possibility to ever be played again. So little nerfs are better than big sweeping nerfs. So Cronus is up next. Stop time. All it says is stop time. All right, we're stopping. CC is now considered a stun for the whole duration for CC immunity purposes. So now it's a stun instead of like a ramp up like it was before. A long time ago, if you immune this, it was actually a slow into a stun. So if you immune the slow, you wouldn't get stunned. So Wingblade was the perfect counter to Cronus for so long, because if he ever uses 3 on you, the Wingblade would proc and you wouldn't get stunned. So finally getting it, I guess, just be more consistent. It's now a stun the entire duration of the 3. Cupid is getting increased camera height. So in Smite, the smaller your character the smaller your character is, the shorter your camera angle is actually going to be from like above it. So for a character like, I guess like Kepri, you could probably see over a lot of things because you're really high up in the air. And then for a character like Cupid was before, or maybe like Scylla, you actually are pretty short. So I don't know what they're doing as far as like in the future what they're going to do for stuff like that, but it appears that they're going to be increasing Cupid's camera height to, I guess, a more consistent camera angle. I'm not really too sure what that entails, because then wouldn't you want to do it with all the characters that are short? Or was his just abnormally short, or abnormally like in the middle or something? Anyway, Hades. Worst character in the game. Let's see. Blight. Now has a debuff effect that lowers the target's magical or physical power by 5%. Alright, that's kind of weird to just throw in there. I always am kind of like annoyed by these like random things they just add. Like, they want to make a character good or viable, and they just kind of keep throwing in little things, and eventually it's just like, why does it do this many things, or why is it like that? So, whatever. Kali, marked for death, 20% heal on assist, so that basically just means her target, she's going to get 20% instead of 15% back. Should help her a little bit, but obviously isn't going to fix her problems, and she's still going to be pretty bad. Kukulkan now gets 60 to 80% movement speed instead of 40 to 80%. That's kind of crazy. I mean, his 2 is actually one of the biggest movement speed buffs in the game once you get to, because it ramps up, right? It doesn't start out with what it's, and I don't mean the ranking of the ability, I mean that when you start the ability compared to the end of the ability, there's different movement speed, and it obviously increases during that time. So, yeah, he's just going to be a little bit speedy, a little bit more speedier noodle. But then the important buff, I think, is the 10% cooldown reduction on his Spirit of the Nine Winds. So, Spirit of the Nine Winds is actually a really hard ability to hit, even when they're CC, because it just takes so long for it to go, for it to get out. The only time it's like a guaranteed ult is off like a Neja ult or a Kumba ult. Like, you'll hit it every single time. But that's just how those ults should work. Like, those should be perfect setup for pretty much every mage ult. But pretty much every other mage ult has self setup. Like, for example, let's just think like Thoth. He can stun them and then immediately ult them. He has self setup. Discordia can root them or make them whatever, kiss each other, and then ult them with the big golden apple. And those are just 2 examples, and those are recent gods. But only other example I wouldn't consider is probably like Ra. But it's really rewarding to hit Ra ult. So the thing about Kukulkan is he doesn't have any self setup for his ult apart from like slowing them. But it just takes so long for it to get out that it will probably never hit off your own setup. So you kind of just have to guess all the time. So having it on a lower cooldown, since it's such a big skill shot, since it's like really all based on skill and being like, rewarding players for, throwing out their Kukulkan ults as often as possible, I really like. So lowering cooldown on that is nice. Sam, thanks for the 100 viewer host, man. Hope you had a good stream. We're just going over patch notes real quick before we play some ranked, guys. So stick around. Don't worry, I'll be playing ranked. Anyway, still going through the god balance right now. So Serket is up next. Catalyst, which is their passive, 20% bonus damage instead of 25% when consuming 3 poisons. That's nice. I hate her passive. I hate this god. I wish she wouldn't even be in the game. No, I'm just kidding. I think she has a cool kit, but she just gets too many things for no reason. So reducing that stuff is really nice. Deathbane, this ability targets have been updated to better show the areas where this ability hits. That's nice because you never really knew where it hit. If you play the god a lot, you kind of knew, but it doesn't really show. It's just kind of like a zigzag, and you just hope that it does all the damage. What's up, Crash? And then they reduce the base damage on Last Breath, which is basically the true damage ultimate that she has. So that's nice. 50 damage at max rank, and it goes up a little, or reduced a little bit by each time. German, thank you for gifting a sub to Baloo and Solar Troll. Much appreciated, German. 50 gifted subs. Did you just want to round it out? Thank you so much. Can we get some hypes for German in the chat for gifting all these subs? Jean Kui's up next. Jean Kui is another one of those characters that's been really bad for a long time, so we're seeing little nerfs to him is okay. I think that's how they should do it. They shouldn't be doing sweeping nerfs to gods that have been bad for a very long time. You don't want them to immediately be irrelevant again, so doing the small nerfs is nice. So Jean Kui, Demon Bag, which is passive, reduced from 1 protection per sec to 0.8 protections, and Book of Demons, the stun duration is going down to 1 second instead of 1.1, but it increases. Remember that it increases if you have them carded. So it's not just a 0.1 second reduction, it's a 0.2 second reduction or something like that. And also, just the protections nerf is nice because Jean Kui is so tanky when he has no tank item. It's absurd because he gets so much from his passive. Yo, Wet Sox, thank you for the 4-month resub, man. Appreciate it. Welcome back. Appreciate the tier 1 win. Anyway, so the next item on the list are the masks. So they're adding the masks back to the game. Not all of them. Just a couple or a few. So the thing about these items are they're going to give a lot of good stats, but they're also going to have a negative stat on them. So it requires some choice and some consequence to buying these items, because they are the items, or the stats on the items themselves are going to probably be really good, but the negative stat is something that you're going to have to think about and kind of calculate when you're doing your build or whatever. So however, I do think that it'll end up just being good or bad. Like either this item is worth it and you're going to buy it on certain characters, or it's just going to be terrible. Pretty much no matter how they make it, because just the way it works, like if you have a negative stat on something, you're never going to buy that if it's jeopardizing the role you're playing. Like if it's making it too tough to do the things that you need to do, you might as well just go items that don't have negative stats and try and be, try and just fit the role that you're playing, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to go through the tier 1. I'm just going to go through the tier 3 of each of them. So the tier 3 of Protector's Mask is 2200 gold, 100 health, 50 prots each, 20% CDR, 15% damage mitigation. So all of these things that tank would love. I mean, these are just amazing stats. And it's not that expensive. 2200 gold is not crazy, but you do 25% less damage. So you're no longer going to be able to just walk up and solo a carry if you buy this item. I mean, you still may be able to, but you're going to be doing it a lot harder because you're going to be doing 25% less damage. So basically what they want to do with this item is make it very, very appealing to tanks, but not because they're just going to be so tanky and their base damage is going to carry them and just 1v1 whoever they want, but because they're an actual tank. All they're doing is absorbing abilities and stuff like that. So this I could see be bought on supports. A lot of supports that aren't meant to do damage, right? They're not meant to just solo people. So I could definitely see that being built on supports. I don't really see this being built in solo, because in solo you do have to do damage to the enemy carries and to the enemies. So you don't really want to do less damage to them. You do have to see how it feels a little bit. If this just makes you so tanky, like once you buy it, that no one can even 1v1 you and you can just run around and do whatever you want, then maybe the less damage you do doesn't really matter that much. We'll have to see, because they do have some pretty good stats on it. So then up next is Boomba's Mask. This is a tier 3. It's built for Messenger's Mask, which is that. This is going to be 2400 gold, so 200 gold more than the tank item, which is nice because usually the people are building like the Boomba's Mask, which I assume is the kind of like the jungle mask or like the carry mask. They're going to have a little bit more gold, so having the tank item be a little less gold so supports can buy it is nice. So it's 2400 gold, 25 physical power, 60 magical power, depending on what character you are. Obviously, you don't get this. You don't get both if you're physical. It's only the 25 physical if you're physical. And then 20% movement speed, wow. 20% CDR, wow. And then plus 20% damage taken. Okay, I think they messed up. This is supposed to be a minus. This means that you're taking more damage. So the negative on this item is the fact that you take 20% more damage. For some reason they have a plus. And then 50% bonus movement speed. So I think that just means that it adds 50 flat bonus movement speed to the little number at the bottom left. So you're going to be moving a little bit quicker. But however, the negative, like I said, is the extra damage taken, the 20% damage taken. So this is a little weird because I guess it depends, because a lot of times as a jungler, you're going on somebody and they're not really returning damage. Like a lot of times you'll go on a mage and you're just trying to kill them and they're just trying to run away. However, there are also a lot of scenarios where you're getting turned on and they're gonna you're getting turned on. Well, they're turning on you and then you are gonna be taking a lot of damage from their mage, and having an item like this just may make it so you get one shot. The item or the stats on it are like pretty nice. Like 20% movement speed, 20% CDR. Like that's insane stats. But and I guess you'll be pretty fast. So it'll I don't know. You'll just have to test it out. You have to see. I'm not too sure on this item. Like for this item, I'm like, yeah, this will probably be bought by supports. For this item, I'm not too sure. It's a little bit weirder. Anyway. So anyway, Rangda's Mask is up next. This is tier 3. This is 2,600 gold. I assume this is just like the mage or ADC item. Yeah, it looks like the mage or ADC item. So just a little bit more gold. It's just ramping up for the characters that are the late game carries, and that want to farm up. So Fighter's Mask gives you 20% or 20 penetration, not 20%. 50 physical power, 100 magical power, based on the character that you are. A mighty minus 30 movement speed, so not 30%. Obviously, it's just 30 flat on the bottom left. 30 I don't think is that big of a deal. And for the stats you're getting from the rest of it, plus 15% ability damage, plus 20% basic attack damage. This is definitely an item that will be bought. I mean, look, the stats on it are just absurd. 50 physical power, 20 penetration. This extra percent damage on whether it's your ability or your basic attack, for only minus 30 movement speed, not even percent. Unless this is a typo and it's supposed to be percent, like this item is definitely good, and you're going to be seeing this bot a whole lot on a lot of people, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure this item is just better than this item up here. I mean, obviously this item makes you move faster because you get more movement speed and everything like that. And it's basically catered towards like assassins and like mage jungles that move around a lot. But even then, like I don't know if it'll be worth it. You're just getting so much extra damage from this that like when you do get near someone, you're gonna actually be, just like kind of one-shotting them and doing whatever you want. But it is 2,600 gold, so it's up there in the price department. So, we'll have to see how. It's definitely gonna be bought by mages and ADCs though, so that's pretty much a guarantee. So Elixir Power, which is the 3K pot as we call it, and Elixir Defense are both seeing buffs. Definitely buffs, because it's lasting at 360 seconds now. So instead of 300 seconds, which is basically 5 minutes, it's now lasting 6 minutes. It's no longer removed on death. Both are no longer removed on death, and they both last 360 seconds now. But they're also seeing some percentage buffs. So now with Elixir Power, you do 25% extra structure damage. So this is just going to help you siege, and when you have Fire Giant plus this, I guess you're just going to be one-shotting towers and phoenixes. And then Elixir Defense is 25% damage mitigation versus structures. So tanks are going to be a whole lot tankier to structures as well, especially with like Emperor's Armor. I wonder if you'll ever die to a structure with that. Yo, Malphus, thank you for the 10 months, man. Welcome back. Appreciate the tier 1, man. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so then these are all the item changes as well. Soul Reaver now has the old Ethereal Staff passive. Whenever you damage an enemy god, you steal 8% maximum mana as well as 4% maximum health from the target. The stats remain stolen for 45 seconds, and targets affected can have multiple buffs and debuffs at once. This can only occur once every 15 seconds. So basically, like I said, it's going to be a little bit hard to, I guess, gather from this Reddit post, and I haven't like seen how it actually works. And heard the explanation, but I guess that you keep this and you use it on your own, so you give yourself a shield and I guess a shield of mana as well, and then after 45 seconds it goes away, and has a 15-second internal cooldown. And the same thing with this item right here. I'm so confused. Do these have the same exact passive? Oh, okay. So this is wrong. Now it has the old Ethereal Staff passive. So now it just has the passive that Ethereal Staff has right now, which is percentage damage based on the enemy's max health, but it can be mitigated. So it's no longer true damage. But now Ethereal Staff has this thing where you steal 8% of maximum mana and 4% maximum health and give it to yourself for 45 seconds, and then it goes away after that time, and it can only occur once every 15 seconds. Okay, makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, interesting item. It's definitely like a cool utility item for like a tank mage or just a mage that wants to survive a little bit longer. So I like it. Book of Thoth, getting a price increase, lowering the magical power to 80, but they're giving it more mana, and you're getting more power based on the mana conversion. So it's basically just a ramp up now, I guess. The more mana you get, the more power you're going to get back. And it's also going to reward building for Book of the Dead because they also changed that. This no longer gives HP, but the shield is now calculated based on the total mana instead of your current mana. So a lot of times when people bought this item, if they were like half mana, they weren't getting nearly the same value out of the item. So now if you go Book of Thoth and Book of the Dead, and you're sitting at like 2,500 mana on some characters if you're building a lot of mana items, that's a big shield. That's like a 500 health shield, right? So Book of the Dead might be a little bit better. And also just because you're getting more mana here, then it could help. Sorcerer Staff, some other items. These are just basically the tier 1 and tier 2s of things. They're just changing them a little bit, not too big of a deal. Typhon's Fang, 80 magical power, doubled bonus magical power from lifesteal, so basically another ramp up. The more items you get with lifesteal, the more power you're going to get back. However, that right when you buy the item, it's not going to be insanely good. Well, I mean, still good 80 power, but not 100 power. Bancroft's Talon is seeing a price increase, so just a little bit of a nerf. Restored Artifact, nerf to the MP5. Cronus Pendant, nerf to the power by 10, and then also 5 MP5. So the little nerfs. A lot of nerfs to just mage items in general because they've been overperforming and kind of crazy lately. Rod of Healing and Rod of Asclepius no longer affect anything but abilities. So Fire Giant regen, Stone of Gaia, Life Steal, everything like that, HP pots, all that kind of stuff, you're no longer going to be getting increased healing for. It's only abilities now. Kind of a big nerf, actually. Rod of Asclepius is pretty much a must-buy every game because there's always sustain in every game. Even if it's not a healer, there's some type of sustain going on, so having that is really nice. But instead, it won't do that anymore, so it's not going to help that out at all. Oni Thunder's Scarab is getting increased 1% damage mitigation per stack. Hard to say if that'll help. It's a really cheap item, a really nice magical defense item. It's just there's so much better magical defense items for not only soul laners but also for supports. And there's also the aura items that you just have to go. So it's hard to say whether that'll help too much. Guardian Mail getting nerfed not only in the gold department, getting increased 50 gold, but also down to 8% movement speed and attack speed slow per stack. I guess that's okay. Still going to be a good item, and I think you're still going to have to buy it pretty much most games. Silver Branch Bow, which is basically the item that gives you attack speed based on hitting things. You get increased attack speed each time you hit something. Has 6% duration, or 6-second duration on attack speed buff. So just increased duration on that. Still not a great item. Probably won't be bought. Toxic Blade is now 30% attack speed. Kind of weird. I guess they're just trying to make it more appealing to ADCs who want to build anti-heal against healer comps. Just trying to increase the stats on that so you don't lose too much by going this item instead of like an actual damage item. So I like that. Good little buff. Stonecutting Sword reduced the gold in that. I like this because Stonecutting Sword is, for some reason, a super luxurious item, even though a lot of items these days have 50 power. The prot swing on this is nice, and that's probably why it's a little bit more expensive. But I think this is more appealing now because, before I don't think it was that appealing to most people because going another item was just almost always better, especially on like your assassins and stuff. Yo, Ham, thank you so much for the 5 months, man. Welcome back. Hope you're doing swell. Hope the streams are going well, dude. Appreciate the resub. Alright, Poison Star. My least favorite item in the game. when ADCs build crit and go Poison Star, it's just a sad day. You're slowed and do less damage, so you can never actually 1v1 them as a frontliner. So reducing it to 15% damage reduction is nice. 20% is actually a whole lot, so I'm kind of surprised that it was at that originally. So 15% is more balanced, I think. So that's nice. Still going to be probably a pretty good item because you can pretty much 1v1 any frontliner like I mentioned. Wind Demon is now 2,700 gold instead of 2,800. I guess just making it a little bit more appealing over Poison Star because a lot of people rush Poison Star, so maybe they just want to make it a little more appealing for to go Wind Demon instead. Spectral Armor, however, even though like crit is kind of in the meta, they're buffing Spectral Armor, so now 60% bonus damage taken from crits. Oh wait, is that a nerf? I'm a little bit confused by this. Is it saying... Okay. I think it's a nerf, right? So you now take 60% instead of 50% of what it was originally supposed to be. I'm a little confused by this, that it's a nerf, because I don't, like, you could, like, this item's okay. Like, you could buy it in a lot of situations, but there's almost always a better item that you can go. And Nemean is almost always better because it's better to reflect damage and punish somebody for critting than just not taking as much damage. You know what I mean? Not only that, but Nemean just works in all situations. Not only is it good against crit, but it's good against assassins who are going to be auto-attacking you without crit or anything like that. So, I don't know. Kind of weird to nerf that. That's the one. Like, I like a lot of these changes, but a couple of them I don't agree with, and this is probably one of them. Don't think that this was worth nerfing. So yeah, Warrior's Blessing getting nerfed. So now you only get 75 health from it, and only get 30 health and mana returned on each time you proc the passive. Nice little nerf. Still going to be the must-buy starter item as a solo laner. How much will it help the fact that pretty much everyone's unkillable in the laning phase? Maybe a little bit. I mean, 25 health isn't that big of a deal, but the reduced health return and mana return, after 10 stacks of this, after 10 hits of this, you now have 100 less health and mana that you did in the last patch. So nice little nerf to that. Shifter Shield, we're seeing a reduction in gold so that it's more appealing. Still probably not going to be that crazy and bought that often because Void Shield is just a better item if you want to go a bruiser item right there. And then Sunder is they're reducing the cooldown on that to 110 seconds instead of 140 seconds, so a 30-second reduction on that. Might be bought more. I've been messing around with Sunder a little bit because it's still a decent relic. It's just all the relics are a lot better. So the fact that it was 140 seconds is kind of sad because you could just not really ever use it. But now 110 seconds, gonna be up more often, so that's nice. How much it'll help, I'm not too sure. So anyway, that's basically all the changes. So a lot of mix-up in this patch, a lot of things being changed, a lot of reworks, a lot of buffs, a lot of changes to items, and also just changes and nice things to have, like the fact that you can get rewarded for being a good person. The fact that the modes are seeing a lot of changes. They're making things more consistent. They're adding ways to, practice, like the jungle practice, adding things that you can actually do there. Yeah, and even the balance changes, I kind of like I'm usually kind of on the edge, or I'm on the fence, and I'm I can't really say either way whether they're going to be good or not, or whether it was even healthy to change. But with a lot of these things, I do like the way they did it, and I do like the concepts to begin with. Like, for example, the fact that RNG-based passives are being taken out. I really like that. So, yeah, like I said, since it's just a bullet point list of what the changes are, I can't really gather too much from it. But I did give my honest opinion and kind of shared my thoughts about the mid-season patch notes. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and for the people watching on stream, I hope you guys enjoyed watching over it with me live. And yeah, we'll see how these changes do. And of course, make sure that you play the PTS when it's out. The best way to make sure that these changes are balanced and healthy for the game are to play them on the public test server, which you can download. I'll put it in the description, a link to download that. So yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out. Alright, chat.